I think this is much more about signaling to the Rohingya community that we are aware a genocide happened. We want to get it on the historical record and all of that. I think that's extraordinarily important. I think the question that we have to watch right now is whether or not this statement signals a harder line that's coming from the Biden administration. They've taken a fair amount of sanctions against the junta since the coup last year, but they haven't imposed sanctions on many of the financial flows stemming from oil and energy and all that. It's a long way of saying that there are far more sanctions that the United States could take against Myanmar, but has not yet. And I think it's worth considering that this genocide determination, which is specifically mentioned as targeting, saying the military did this, not the state of Myanmar, whether that's setting up new sanctions, new stronger sanctions against the military.
The ASEAN special envoy is in Myanmar right now. What do you think this envoy can hope to achieve? Will the junta listen?
I think off the bat, the junta is probably not going to listen, first off. But I think that Prak Sokhonn, the special envoy from Cambodia, is a little bit hampered in his mission by the fact of which government he represents, frankly. I think the Cambodian government has a view of the situation that is probably a little disconnected from reality. It seems as if top leaders in Phnom Penh think that the way to solve the crisis in Myanmar is by boosting the current regime there and saying, this authoritarian regime can bring stability to the situation, and only from there will we have peace. Where I think that is not the reality in Myanmar anymore. You have a population that experienced democracy and is not ready to go back to living under the military. So I think in an ideal world, you would have Prak Sokhonn coming to Myanmar and trying to push the regime to moderate a little bit more and to push towards negotiations. But based on the Cambodian approach, I'm pessimistic that this is going to happen.
Why did the US make this statement now? Why didn't they make this much earlier?
So the Trump administration considered a genocide declaration, particularly at the end of the administration. But there was a view, I think, among folks in the administration that if you labeled this treatment a genocide, it would reverberate really poorly on Myanmar's civilian government, which was at the time led by Aung San Suu Kyi, who, of course, a Nobel Prize winner and all of that. But she was not supportive of the Rohingya. She did not stand up for them when the military carried out these atrocities. So there was concern among U.S. officials that if you would weaken the civilian government and actually perhaps instigate a coup. And of course, a coup happened anyway. And it's taken about a year, I think, of deliberations within the Biden administration for folks to come around and basically say, well, Myanmar is already pretty down a very bad path. This genocide declaration is not going to make things any worse. And it's extraordinarily important to get it on the record.